you want to call me, whatever you know me as, fuckface, or I've had people call me a fuckface, I've had people call me an angel, and everything in between. So whatever you know me for or as, hello, how are you? But this is a statement for the record in regards to the city of Wayne. Let me put my seatbelt on. So the city of Wayne, the title of this video is "The City of Wayne Needs to Do the Right Thing," and quite frankly, quite truthfully, I don't think the city of Wayne at this point. I think the city of Wayne is so morally bankrupt. I think the city of Wayne government is run by some of the most malicious and incompetent people in history. You know, I have a master's degree in psychology. Not clinical psychology, organizational psychology, but these type of issues are right up my alley, educationally, and what I've witnessed out of the city of Wayne, Michigan, and their municipality, as far as the government, right? Because it really is like two different universes. The people of Wayne, the people that live in Wayne, by and large, are some of the best Americans on the planet. And it's unfortunate because they're elected officials, and I use that term loosely because 60+% of the city of Wayne is transient, which means that the people who own property in Wayne don't even live there, right? They're just passing through, they're just renting. So the city of Wayne has already become a very fractured community as far as like, it's a hostile place to raise a family. Let me just put it that way. And a lot of the people who own property in Wayne, they're just rental properties, right? Like they don't actually live in Wayne, in the city proper. And it's really because they've destroyed it. They've pillaged it dry for decades. And there's been a lot of slush funds and there's been a lot of backdoor deals that have transpired, and there's been a lot of corruption. That's the biggest thing. When you start looking into the city of Wayne, the biggest thing that you'll notice is just unbelievable and consistent corruption. Very methodical, very easy. And that's the thing that kind of, when I started looking into the city of Wayne a little bit, and it just became abundantly obvious that, you know, one of the themes that I kept seeing was corruption and retaliatory behavior, retaliatory prosecution, malicious prosecution. Basically, anyone who's a political dissenter, anyone who speaks out against the status quo in Wayne, Michigan, has the government rain down upon them, the local government. And it's even become obvious, like I said, to a hardened judge like James Lakis, who's known as a very conservative and very tough judge, right? But even he can't even believe the level of incompetence, right, that the city of Wayne has displayed throughout this entire case. Really, the incompetence of not only the city of Wayne, but also the ineffectiveness of my retained counsel and court-appointed counsel. So, like they always say, 5 times the charm, right, I guess. And at least that's how it was for me, right, when I got my first girlfriend. It was like the 5th. It took me about 5 times, right? I was so nervous. And I later found out I didn't have anything to be nervous about. You know, but that's just like, you know, kind of like young man insecurity, right? And needless to say, you know, as I spent my young adult year, you know, I didn't go to like a great school, but I went to a respectable school, Central Montcalm High School, Central Montcalm Public Schools. You know, that's the basis for my education. And I'm very thankful, I'm very glad that I was able to grow up in a community like that, and a community that's still like that. It's a very fair community, especially their judicial system. That's one thing about Montgomery, without hesitation, is that their judicial system is very fair. Montcalm County, Michigan's judicial system is extremely not just liberal in the sense like they just let everybody off on crime, because they try to be tough on real crime, people that really deserve it, but they don't weaponize the legal system against people. And it's a small community, but like I said, we have good judges. Judge Eggleston and Judge Blanchard, the prosecuting attorney, Miss Krause, was very fair and willing to hear you out. And they never, as far as I can tell, I mean, obviously I never worked up there. I didn't spend any more time there than I needed to, but I came from a very fucked up background, so my caretakers were involved with the police, and so as a result of that, I just kind of by extension, right, I was in the back seat when my mother was committing felonies, right, before I even really knew what was going on in the world. I was like already in the back seat, right? So I just witnessed too much. I saw too much. And as a result of that, I had, let's just say, more experience than probably most. Not personal, like I was in trouble with the law, because, I've never been in trouble with the law up until COVID, when my uncle and I, rather, we had gotten into an altercation, and we verbally were exchanging words back and forth, and my mother called the police. We were arguing about her because, of what he had said to her and how he just treats her in general, how he's treated her whole life. Now, mind you, this is a guy that has brutally beaten my mother. My mother's a small woman. My uncle was certainly bigger than me. And, he used to just pulverize her, choke her, body slam her, neck crank her. Imagine you take somebody's head and you try to, twist it off, right? This is the type of stuff that, I regularly witnessed as an adult, as a child, as a young man. Just endless amounts of legal bullshit, right? Domestic violence, etc., etc. And so, it wasn't really until I joined the chaotic army, the U.S. Army, that I sort of got away from that dysfunction. But really, I was just trading one dysfunction for another. The Army, as far as on the medical side, is very dysfunctional. And especially their weaponization of, in the Army, they do different type of abusive processes, right? Versus what the city of Wayne, it's very similar in most ways, right? It's very similar. It's basically the same, really. The same pattern and the same tactics and the same psychology, if you will. But it's traumatizing to have to relive this stuff, guys, and to even talk about it, right? There's a million other things I really want to be talking about. But this May 9th incident, right? And May 10th, right? It was really the same day, right? You're talking less than 12 hours of difference between May 9th and May 10th. So it was effectively the same day. May 9th is when they, violated my rights. But it was really the two charges that stem from May 9th that has just completely and utterly obliterated, destroyed my life, and in virtually every conceivable possible way, right? And so I have to make sure that I'm very thorough. Like I said, I fully believe that these people, based on what they did to John Zook Jr. and the cover-up of that, and the prosecution of Anthony Miller, the prosecution of Christopher Sanders, as well as the Mark Blackwell versus Lisa Nocerini 2022 case where Deputy Finley Carter lost, Chief Deputy, at the time Lieutenant Finley Carter, lost his qualified immunity for violating Mark Blackwell's First Amendment rights, which is really what the City of Wayne did to me, because the City of Wayne approved that fire pit in 2022. Ironically, the same guy who wrote this fake ordinance, this open burn policy, Jeremy Schneider, and he actually wrote that, he wrote that fake ordinance, that open burn policy, and he also ratified the actions of May 9th. He gave the permission. He gave the order to his subordinates to extinguish that fire. This is their own words, that the fire must be extinguished no matter what. That's what the fire marshal Jeremy Schneider demanded. That's on the body worn camera that the City of Wayne withheld for months and months and months on video discovery. They withheld it so many times that, I mean, the judge compelled them repeatedly to hand over the discovery, and they never did. They never did. And they admitted it today, January 15th, on the record. Deputy Finley Carter actually admitted on the record, right? I mean, we're talking, we still don't have, like I said, I'll say this until I'm blue in the face, the City of Wayne can provide no receipts. The video discovery that I requested, I was never granted. And I still don't have possession of that. And, you know, now the City of Wayne is trying to charge like $9,000, $10,000 for some information that should cost at most $100 or $200. And it really should be free, because the only reason I'm asking for this information is because the City of Wayne is trying to violate state law, right? And so it's just a complete and utter disgrace and a travesty to do that to any human being, but a disabled veteran. I mean, it's just, I mean, I can't think of anything more repulsive. I really truly can't, guys. That's why I'm making this video. This is a live stream. This is not rehearsed. As you can tell, this is completely from the heart. No script, no filter. And I feel compelled to talk about this, because it sets such a unbelievable precedent, right? If this injustice is allowed to continue, which the judge allowed it to continue today, because, you know, he didn't withdraw the plea. And so now we're in a situation where, you know, he's made his ruling. Now, that doesn't mean the case is over. Actually, far from it, because, you know, we have district court for the March 28, 2024 break-in, right? So that's going to get everything going. That's going to be where we establish exactly what the City of Wayne is up to, which is ratifying the enforcement of laws that don't exist without a warrant. I mean, that is as simple as I can make it. There is no consent in any of these searches. Consent is impossible, because they just give themselves consent. They just, like, literally just walk on the property. They give themselves permission. You tell them, no, fuck you, go get a warrant, and they just walk on your property right 200-300 feet into your curtilage, right? And just like act like they own it and they're in control, and you're not going to tell them anything, right? You're on your own private property, minding your own business, hanging out with your family, cooking some marshmallows, and next thing you know, you're in the back of a police car because there was an anonymous call, right? An anonymous call, supposedly an anonymous call, as they say, right? Because we have requested that video, we've requested that discovery, and we've never gotten it. So it's really, like I said, it's a travesty all around. And the fact that I don't have all of the transcripts readily available so I can appeal this case, if this, you know, district court judge James Plakas is not going to follow, you know, really just common sense, right? I mean, that's why I've been so frustrated with this case, and that's why I've, quote, acted absurd, because I've had to illustrate the absurdity of these, not only these charges, but these bond conditions, this probation, I mean, just this whole thing, it's absolutely just astounding. It's absolutely astounding to sit here and to just like be rotten in jail because you were existing on your private property, and then somebody allegedly anonymously complained, right, and said that your fire pit that the city approved in 2022 by Fire Marshal Jeremy Schneider, that somehow that's not only probable cause but justification to enter your curtilage without a warrant, and without even a codified ordinance. I mean, to ratify something like that is truly fucking insane. If I can put it any more bluntly, please tell me how, but it's just absolutely positively insane to ratify something like that repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again, and then to hide the video discovery, openly hide it, even though it's already been compelled by the judge several times. And it's just like, this is just the biggest manifest injustice, Fourth Amendment and 14th Amendment violation that I can fathom. I don't have the creativity to be able to come up with something so malicious and so sinister, right? To accuse somebody falsely of, right? When you know you don't have a codified ordinance, and now you admit it on December 26, 2025, December 16th rather is when you really admitted it. You admitted that you didn't have an ordinance. And despite the fact that you just admitted that you didn't have an ordinance, you're just like basically flaunting the fact that you don't have an ordinance. I contest it, validly contest it, because there was some things that I just noticed rather quickly about it without even really looking into it that much, without even really reading it that thoroughly. Just a cursory glance, I was able to find several clear errors, right? Clear errors that basically, in most cases, in 99.9% of cases, outlaws open burning completely. I mean, unless you have a property big enough, which there's only a handful of properties that are even big enough by how that ordinance is written, because it's got to be in the rear yard just like the shed, and it's got to be 50 feet from the shed because that's the structure, right? So you're like, well, damn, I mean, that basically eliminates, just mathematically speaking, let's set the legal arguments aside. We're talking, basically effectively eliminating 99.9% of open burning in the city of Wayne, which is a travesty, which is, I wouldn't say the biggest travesty. I think 5 months of incarceration for, a policy that's not a law, that doesn't exist. I think that's pretty insane, but, definitely I think it's even more insane that the city of Wayne refuses to just admit that they fucked up and, reasonably make it right with somebody, right? Because this has had everlasting trauma on me and my family and my children. This has given my children adverse childhood experiences. And that's the fucking bullshit, man. And that's the bullshit that gets me fired up about this shit, man. Is the fact that they inflicted it on my 3-year-old autistic child. Because you take, like I said, guys, May 9th is everything here. And May 9th shouldn't have happened. And the fact that May 9th did happen, and the city of Wayne's response to that is to effectively eliminate 99.9% of open burning. And then, of course, give themselves permission to violate the 4th and the 14th Amendments, right? And then their own definitions contradict each other. They're just fucking morons. They're just illiterate morons, apparently incompetent illiterate morons. We're supposed to believe, right? We're supposed to believe that this is just pure incompetence. And it's like, no, it's impossible. It's impossible for this to just be just simple incompetence. Which I'm not contesting that most of this shit is from the city of Wayne. The reason the city of Wayne is the way it is mostly because of municipal incompetence. And it's a very poorly run city, And it's, like I said, it does not have, it doesn't have the resources to act this way, right? And these lawsuits, this weaponization of their courts and their legal system against people, their prosecution, their prosecutors, and their, their police department. Right now, they're getting the fire department now, which is even crazy because who would have thought the fire department isn't off? I always thought the fire department was off limits. I had several friends growing up. I had several fucking friends that were. Their fathers were corrections officers, police officers, and fire. I played football all throughout elementary to high school, and even played some junior college football. And I've just never been this stuff has just blown my mind. Like that they got the fire department involved, because this is what this is. It's a conspiracy. The whole city's involved with this in some way or another. Right? You're talking the fire department, the police department, city hall, right, which is composed of the city council and the city manager, and the 29th district court. Fudging the ROA, cooking the books. It's just like, man, I mean, what in the fuck do we have to do to get justice in Wayne, Michigan? Right? And who the fuck does the city of Wayne, Michigan think they are? Right? When you're talking, like, literally the entire government, DPW worker, he got involved. And, he was the one who parked his vehicle in front of my house, right? He parked it in front of my house, blocking me from leaving my house and yelling death threats and sexually charged language in uniform on the job, on the clock, right? Tax dollar funded, domestic terrorism, essentially false imprisonment, right? Blocking somebody's driveway where they can't leave their house. Well, that's called false imprisonment. And this whole thing is just, it's just wild shit, man. It's just wild shit. It's a wild ride, and I'm glad you guys have been a part of it, I guess. We're forever bonded, with this, and it's trauma bonding. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have to meet human beings under these set of circumstances. But hey, that's sometimes how the cookie crumbles, and sometimes it just becomes readily apparent that government's going to government, corrupt is going to corrupt, and especially times that by 3 when you're talking small town politics, times it by 10 really. Small town USA, and the city of Wayne is the smallest of towns in America and Michigan. Effectively 3 square miles of total landmass, right? Which is nothing, right? Just surrounded by huge, in comparison, municipalities. And yeah, Wayne's an anomaly, and my property is the biggest anomaly in the city of Wayne. Residentially speaking, I can't speak on the commercial side of things. I don't own any commercial property in the city of Wayne. But I do have the biggest residentially zoned property in the city. Not to brag, but not to say like, it's got a crime rate. No, it's got some crime for sure. No, the city of Wayne's got a ton of crime, really. On the east side especially, because it's between Ypsilanti and Detroit, right, which is like crime central. And Dearborn's got some crazy shit going on, and really all of Metro Detroit does nowadays. Just kind of how it is. But no, I can't speak for other municipalities so much. What was Wayne famous for? Absolutely nothing, really. Shaggy 2 Dope, ICP, Insane Clown Posse. That's about it. They have an automobile. They have a couple automobile assembly factories, and a couple pot shops, and that's basically it. So, not really historically known for much, not really good for anything, really. And like I said, dealing with their two prosecutors, Bosnick and Miller, which have just ran ragged by the city of Wayne because they've gotten themselves into so much shit. Because it's all they're doing too. That's the thing. All of the problems in the city of Wayne are self-induced in the sense that they come from the government. The government inflicts it upon the people of Wayne. Like I said, the people of Wayne, by and large, 95% are great, are fantastic, are decent, hardworking people. Obviously, people have their flaws and their quirks and their kinks, but by and large, I've lived in a lot of places in the United States throughout my life, and I grew up small town. I've been in kind of every living environment. I spent a brief period of time down in South America and Central America, over a year, in fact. So, I wouldn't say I'm well traveled in the sense I'm not like some people, but for the average, for the arrogant, yeah, I would say probably more on average, right? And I think the city of Wayne people, the residents, there's a couple cucks definitely in Wayne, for sure. But by and large, not too bad, guys. Obviously the government population, that's a whole different story. I would inverse it. I would say 95% of the government is tarnished, corrupt, just not either incompetent and malicious, or what I like to call maliciously incompetent, right? That's what the city of Wayne has exemplified time and time again throughout. They've charged me with so many crimes, right? And to just have to watch crime after crime after crime after crime get disposed, and of course getting denied access repeatedly to the video discovery and to the other discovery that I've requested, and the court's compelled, and I've asked for Brady and Giglio sanctions, and those have been denied repeatedly. So I don't know, nothing about this case has been normal, nothing about this case has been really acceptable. It's honestly the most ridiculous criminal case in the city's history, right? In the city of Wayne, Michigan's history, by far, right? The Mark Blackwell case was pretty bad. The Anthony Miller case was pretty bad. Christopher Sanders case was pretty fucked up. But the John Zook case obviously is the worst. But this case is in my opinion the biggest Fourth Amendment violation in the city of Wayne, Michigan history, probably in Wayne County history, if not the state of Michigan. You're just getting into so many due process violations, and really just a lot of incompetence, some malice obviously, but you're dealing with people that are just absolutely insane and out for blood, and bloodthirsty, right? We'll call them that. And I just can't, as someone who calls myself a soldier and someone who served honorably in the Army, I can't not exercise my rights, if that makes sense. I've been trained and I've been refined at Georgia Military College in the Corps of Cadets. And while I would never compare myself to some veterans, most veterans, right? I did serve honorably, and I did serve for the right reasons, right? Now, obviously, I served because I wanted the benefit of the doubt one day. I wanted to, if I was ever in a situation where I was falsely accused like Rambo, I want to be able to assure that I'm going to get a fair shake, right? And so that was the main reason why I joined the military. Other reasons as well that were just as, relevant. But I wanted what came with that lifestyle, and I wanted the challenge of it. And it was a way. I looked at it as a way of seeking the truth and seeking justice, and you know, learning and exploring and exploration, and um, you know, who the hell knows where Jesus, where God is going to take you, but you just know that it's going to be a hell of an experience, whatever it is. And that was my introduction to the U.S. Army. And you know, I loved my time at Georgia Military College, and I loved my time in the Corps of Cadets. And I learned more in that short year than I ever did, since COVID-19 pandemic, or really my entire life. I learned so many valuable lessons at Georgia Military College, and I really loved my time in Milledgeville, Georgia. And it was an experience that I needed, that I desperately needed, and it, in all intents and purposes, probably saved my life. Because I was in a bit of a I was in a couple relationships that, let's just say, weren't any good for me, and I suppose vice versa was probably true. A bad match, right? A lot of attraction, a lot of chemistry, but just other than that, not really compatible. And at the time when I joined Georgia Military College, I just wanted to make a difference. I just, I believed in the Constitution, and I always loved the Constitution. And I felt like it was a way for me to get connected closer to it, and closer to God, and, to figure out some things in my life, right? I was 21, and just tired of the factory life, the factory grind, and I wanted something different, right? Kind of had a group of friends that we all kind of got peer pressured into it, and we kind of held ourselves accountable that we were all going to do it, and we all did it. Very happy I did it, and so that's the reason, right? That's the reason why I have fought so hard and expressed my innocence over and over and over again. And it's just because it's the right thing to do. It's what God tells me I must do, and I don't know, and that was, like I said, the whole reason for the violation, right? The whole reason for the violation, the fire pit was just a religious expression. It was land maintenance. It was, hey, I want to put a pond here for my aquatherapy. And I want to improve the environment. I want to clean up my property, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there was no reason not to do what I did. And I got permission from the state. I got permission from the Drain Commission. I did everything responsibly until, I had a, tree service come out and do the work, and it was just getting too expensive. And I was like, well, I got this fire pit here. There's already like 3 cords of wood. There's already three cords of wood, maybe more, just stacked, seemed like a mile high. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta get this out of here. And I used the fire pit that came with the house when I bought it. And, non-emergency break-in to enforce a policy, non-law. I mean, I just can't get over the warrant. I can't get over the lack of a warrant. But, I mean, just compounded by the fact But just come by the fact that none of these break-ins, except for one, there was even a codified ordinance. So there's just too many red flags with this case, and there's just too many red flags in general with the city of Wayne and their antics and what they do and how they do it, and there's just too many red flags, man, and too many disposed charges, too many loose charges, right? Too many discovery violations. I mean, just it's insane, and it's not right. The biggest thing is that it's unconstitutional and it's inhumane to somebody to keep them locked away in jail, and to use the fact that they're clearly upset about your punitive bond conditions. They're clearly upset at the fact that, well, there's not even a codified ordinance, so it's basically essentially being charged with witchcraft, right? And that's what interference really is, or obstruction, right? That's just the catch-all, just like disorderly. And basically it's, which of course it's a secondary charge. Well, obstruction with what? Well, we're not on public property here, right? So obstruction on his property, well, what were you doing on his property? How did you get on his property? How did the encounter begin, right? It's not like we just both teleported out of the sky and got dropped on my property, and it's not like a video game or whatever. It's not like the old army game, right, where you just drop in. It's like there was a reason for the encounter. There was something that led up to the encounter, and that is critical information to have, to be able to defend oneself against an accusation like this. And to just repeatedly, over and over and over again, not be allowed in an appropriate time frame discovery, right? And then to not have really, we probably got, at this point, as of today, we might have half of what we asked for, maybe 2/3. But there's several things, half a dozen or more things that the city of Wayne has either never claimed they provided us, or lied into the court on the record, said they provided it. It's just absolutely, it's wild. It's wild shit. It's wild shit. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable, man. And then to withhold a transcript for months on top of it, right? It's just the whole thing. The whole thing is absolutely, positively insane. And it's gotta stop, right? When the deputy chief can argue to the judge, the deputy chief of police, when he can argue to the judge that I can't get 72 hours with phone access at the city of Wayne jail because it's against policy, right? And it's like, that's the theme of this whole case, right? Policy over law, right? Policy over codified law. And the codified law states that I'm entitled to a speedy trial. I'm entitled to all discovery, especially expulsionary discovery, right? Anything that would expulsionate the charge, right? Anything that would expel the charge, anything that would rid me of the charge, anything that could be positively used to my benefit, right? And we've requested all of that, and we haven't been provided. We've been provided with tidbits of stuff, but there's no receipts and nothing proven without a reasonable doubt that anything that they're saying. There's not even any proof, right? There isn't a receipt that exists. And like I said, this is the reason why I have this YouTube channel as well. to try to help document, what I've been going through. Because, like I said, guys, I have too much going on in my life. I have too much to live for. I have a beautiful wife, and I have three beautiful boys. And, I just simply, truthfully, I don't have the time in my lifespan left to be dealing with this shit. And I want to be focused on my family and my health as a disabled veteran. And, but, duty calls, and when duty calls, you gotta respond, and so I guess that's my flaw. My biggest flaw is I don't know when to quit, or, I always respond to the call. Duty calls, guys, that's all I know. I was trained to be this way, and I was trained to be a person, obviously a fighter, obviously a soldier, but I was trained to be a cadet. I was trained by the best that this country has to offer. I was surrounded by the best that this country has to offer. And the thing I've learned most from the military, from the Army, is you have to be willing to fall on the sword for what you believe in. If you truly want something in life, you got to be willing to fall on the sword for it, because that's the only way you're going to get it, right? And that applies to anything. And I have to do what's right, and I know what's right. And what's right is for me to tell the truth, always, unapologetically, even if it's to my detriment. I don't want to be a type of person that just says fuck it and throws in the towel, right? Lord knows I've certainly done that at times in my life. And I'm sure we all have, but there's just some things I'm not willing to negotiate on. And one of those is the validity of the Constitution. One of those is the truth, right? I mean, I can't compromise the truth. I can't toe the line, and I can't bend the knee to a lie, right? And a lie that has quite literally dire implications, right? The amount of people that get harmed directly or indirectly from incarceration are staggering. Not just physically harmed, but mentally and emotionally harmed. These jails are truly a cesspool of society. And like I said, the prosecutors and the cops and the judges that allow this stuff knowingly allow it to occur, and play dumb or act like they don't know, or it's insane, right? It's absolutely an insult to intelligence to even suggest that people don't clearly know what's going on here, right? Like that. It's an insult to our intelligence to flaunt it in our faces and to say, oh, well, here's your ordinance, right? After you're released from jail, right? And that violates my right to petition the government, right? So while they're concocting and trying to write and pass through this ordinance, right, this void for vagueness ordinance anyways, I'm set in jail with no bond because I allegedly interfered with the enforcement of a law that isn't a law, an ordinance, right, that is actually just a policy that some dumbass wrote. And you're just like, I mean, I don't know how any person would be able to comprehend that. And imagine you're in this place for months, right? For 3 months, and then between time you're on 24-hour GPS house arrest, right? So you're on house arrest, but not at your own home where you live and where you have everything. And no, you're living at your crackhead mother's house, and your children are forced to either basically we're forced to live like refugees. That's one of the few things I'll agree with William J. Mays on. In one of his motions, he says we were, basically compelled to live like refugees. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's literally it. I mean, that's like ding, 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 ding in a nutshell, right? I mean, it was a horrible experience, a traumatic experience, the most traumatic thing I've ever experienced in my life, bar none. And I've had a traumatic experience, and I was diagnosed with PTSD. Gosh, it's been several years, a lot of years, and they have to be put through this shit, man, repeated time and time again. I mean, it's just, it ain't right, man. There's no justice in this case at all, man. Nothing about it, dude. I mean, it's all just, the city of Wayne couldn't make themselves appear more unreasonable if they tried, man. Like I said, I think long term, when and if I ever get the record, I think it'll be to my benefit, especially I think in non-district court, non-kangaroo court. I don't think that that's gonna fly. I sincerely hope not, but who knows? It's just been unfathomable to have to literally, I mean, fight for your life, right? You fight for the life of others, and then you gotta fight for your own life, right? And it's just, it's fucked up, man. It's a fucked up, it goes without saying, right? A lot of this stuff goes without saying, I feel like, but sometimes I don't know, I just have to describe it in my own words, right? And it's just, I don't know. We'll talk about it more later, guys, but I think I need a break for the night. My heart, man, it's been sputtering again, and I've been having palpitations again. And I've never had them in my life, guys, and now I have 3 boys and heart palpitations. And it's just a horrible thing to have to go through, man. And like I said, I know I talk a lot of shit, but I would never wish this type of judicial abuse and prosecutorial abuse on anybody, and police abuse, police misconduct, right? I would never wish this type of stuff on anybody, and I have to continue to fight the good fight, unfortunately, even though I can't tell you guys how some days I just wake up and I swear to you guys, I just want to move to Paraguay and dig ponds in Paraguay. I want to do anything. I want to restore the forest in Paraguay. I want to dig ponds in Bolivia. I mean, there's just so many things that I would rather be doing than talking about this shit, dealing with this shit, um, having to go to court, and relive this shit, man. And that's the only way to get any semblance of justice or truth when it comes to May 9th and May 19th. And it's just, it's hard, man. It's hard right now. Yeah, I'll save your comments, guys, and I will address them later. But yeah, I have to let you go for now. But we will be in touch very soon. Appreciate you guys' time.